Jamaa vipi? Hey. Ase umecheki na fundi nitafuta. KBH bado aise. Haya.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I think it's 2 p.m. in Nairobi now, and it's midday in Yaoundé. We will begin very shortly. We just give the others about 5 to 10 minutes to join us, and we will get started. Again, thank you for coming to this very important exchange of experiences. Again, good afternoon. For those who have already joined us, we're just waiting for the rest of the participants to join the meeting, and we will start as soon as we have a comfortable number of participants. We should be able to start in about 5 minutes. And kindly write to your YDAs, thematic leads, and others who have not joined to join the meeting. You can send them a quick WhatsApp message to say that we're waiting for them. Meantime, as we wait, kindly remember to turn off your microphones if you're not speaking, so that we do not get interferences. For those who have joined, you can go ahead to introduce yourself using the chat section of the platform. Just give your name, where you're joining from, and what your role is in the chat section of.
Nimeutafuta. Naomba unisaidie na pesa ya airtime. Tuko na sawa.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar where we intend to share our experiences and learn from each other. Welcome to the YDAs, the thematic leads, the community resource persons who are joining from Kenya and from Zambia. As you must all have learned, this is a series of webinars that we're running, which will run until the 17th. And so the current webinar is the very first in a series of 8. Let me quickly make a few technical announcements just to ensure that we have a smooth discussion. The first thing is, please keep your microphones muted if you're not speaking. And secondly, throughout the discussion, if you wish to participate, you can do so using the chat section of the Zoom platform, or you can raise your hand. It's quite easy to raise your hand if you take the participants button at the top, at the bottom right of it, there is a raise your hand button. Just click on it and I'll be able to see that you want the floor. Our discussions for this afternoon is going to be quite straightforward, but it's very, very important. Important in the sense that what we observe today and what we are able to harvest today would determine whether or not this program or how this program unfolds next year. And so it's going to be very important that the speakers provide us with as much information as possible. I already sent out an email detailing the minimum that we expect from each of you. Again, let me welcome the coordinators of the platforms in Zambia and in Kenya, and all of your teams. I'd like us to start immediately, since we have already lost some time, by inviting Dr. Mithika Mwenda, the Executive Director of PACJA, to say a few words of welcome, but also to try to situate our discussion in its context and perhaps say something about why it's so important that we do this. Mithika, you're welcome. Please take the floor.
Thank you, Eugene. I want to just make a slight correction from Eugene's talk. It's not Zambia, actually, it's Tanzania.
Apologies. It's Tanzania. The sound is the same. Yeah.
Yes. So good afternoon, colleagues, and it's a great pleasure to see you at this moment in the context of this pandemic. I know all of us are tackling it in different ways. So as you got the invitation to this very important experiment which we are doing, the concept of these grassroots people is actually unique in a way, because we thought about constant interaction among our people, among the PACJA membership platforms and civil society in general. So we have been trying to explore how do we keep in touch in the context of the pandemic, which have grounded us in a manner never seen before. And so when we sat and realized that there is a way we can do, we came up with this concept. As time has been moving, you know that most of you were recruited from our platforms at national level. but there are critical objectives which we had put in place. We want to test whether this concept is working. We want to test whether we continue with it or not, whether it is something which you feel as people who have been working on this are quite in order. We want to integrate this as a practice in our continued strategy of bottom-up approaches in terms of addressing climate crisis, and more importantly, the COVID-19, when we are grounded by government regulations and of course by our demands, our practice, so that we do not catch the virus. And so, since now you have worked for the past 3 months, we want really to hear from you, your experiences. We want those who are at the front line of climate crisis, the young people in Mount Kenya, the young people in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam, the young people from all over in Arusha, the young people in Meru, Arusha, the young people in Meru of Kenya, to exchange. So we are bringing you together for this purpose. I can see the number I can read here is 29. And my expectation was that in each platform, we recruited 10 YDS, 10 CRPs, if I'm not wrong. And so coming with that, 2 platforms should have more than 30, I mean more than 40 participants, and yet we have 30 participants now, including us. So it means there are people who have not joined this. So to start with, I would like us to call a roll call, and we are going to start with the Kenyan platform. And why we are doing this, we want to see if you are not available as a participant, as a person we have recruited to do very simple thing within the work which you do. You have no time to participate in this. What happens when you go? It means, so we want also to test whether people are committed to their work. You know that this model of working, this way of doing requires quite substantial discipline, such that when we are meeting, one should be, actually you need to have the discipline of time, that we agree that we are going to have a meeting at 2. But by 2 o'clock, it's only 5 participants who are there. We had Henry, Kazula, we had Juan, we had Pasco, Eugene, and Fidelis. Msololo, Oditi, and Lindy arrived after 2 minutes. Guys, we have to learn not to be Africans, because I'm normally told that the African time does not respect the standard time. So we need to have the discipline of time, because like these platforms, if you are supposed to have it for 30 minutes, it's 30 minutes. If it is supposed to have this platform but for 1 hour, it is 1 hour. Imagine you come just late, very late. You are not going to be part of it. So these are things which we need to have. So with those few remarks, let us have a roll call. So you need to have your coordinators. They know. So I'll give the coordinator, Marine, so that she can mention whether her all CRPs and YDs and the thematic coordinators are there. So I think that is, we want to today, we are testing the seriousness of our platform. We are testing whether people are really serious, whether they understand what we have been talking about. If you cannot respect even the time itself, I don't think you are going even to respect when you are told to work, even without supervision. So can we have, even Marina actually came up many minutes after 2.
Thank you. Apologies for joining late. So I can say that not all the thematic coordinators have joined. 2 have not joined so far. And then
all right. So we are going to do that, Marine, while mentioning them so that we know why they have not. So you have, how many thematic coordinators do you have?
I have 5 thematic coordinators.
All right. So, so who are there as of now?
Now we have the thematic coordinator for mitigation, who is
that?
Jacob Bolonde.
Is he there?
Yes, I can see he's here.
All right. Yeah.
Let me scroll up and see who else is. I have the thematic coordinator for technology, Technoca, that is Brenda. She's here. And then I have, yeah, only 2 are in, 3 have not joined.
All right. So,
yes.
So, and what about the YDAs?
The YDAs, I have 10 YDAs. So I can,
yes.
Yes, I can see I have the YDAs who have joined. I can see I have Adrian. And then I can also see I have Philbert. I can see I have Brian O'Dane. Let me scroll down and see. I can see I have Innocent. Innocent the Cox is. I can see I have Juan. And I can see I have Kimson, and I can see I have Brian Misiati. I can see I have Moha Sila. So for the young digital activists, and then I have Philbert Aganyo.
What?
Yeah, for the young digital activists, I can see, yeah, Philbert Aganyo is in, and then for the young digital activists, I can see I have Mary Snyder. So the young digital activists have shown up quite a number.
CRPs or?
The young digital activists.
So the ones you have read are CRPs?
Yes.
Why
now,
this?
For the YD, for the ones I have read, Daktari are young digital activists.
Yes.
Yes, and then the ones I'm about to read now are community resource persons.
Yeah.
So for the community resource persons, I can see I have Sam Kaloki. And let me go up. I can see I have Lydia Kimani. I can see I have Robert Spanda. Some people have not, and then I can see I have, let me see also.
Alphonse.
I can see I have Alphonse Odipo. Thank you, Alphonse. Yes, I was still scrolling up, and then I can see I have, yeah, those are the ones I have. So I have, but though I have an apology from one of the community resource persons called Dan Gatwiri. He had a family emergency, but he's joining from tomorrow. So that is the only apology I have from the CRPs.
All right.
You also have Sam Kaloki.
Yes,
Sam Kaloki, you have been mentioned. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Not unless we have a CRP that I have not mentioned, please, you can unmute yourself.
So in other words, so all right, let us hear from Tanzania. I can't see Rebecca, who is the coordinator in Tanzania. Yeah.
On DT, can you try to present your group? If I think I saw on DT a few minutes ago. Are you still there?
Is it Oditi who is the coordinator?
No, he's not. Rebecca should be.
Where is the Tanzania coordinator?
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Sarah Ngoi, Forum CC, Tanzania. We have 4 thematic coordinators.
So are you the coordinator of Tanzania?
Yes, yes.
Well?
Yeah, so we are 4. And we have Msololo Nditi, Henry Kazula, Sarapima. Sarapima.
Sarafina.
Sarapima.
Saradima.
Pima.
Sarapima.
Yes, so we are 4 thematic coordinators: Sarah Ngoi, Sarapima, Msololo Nditi, and Henry Kazula. For the YDAs, we have, I'm trying to see, Henry Victor. We have Henry Victor. We have, I can only see Henry Victor here. And for the CRPs, we have Baraka Lenga. Baraka Lenga also is YDI. So there are 2 YDAs. And for the CRPs, there is Lungo here. Lungo. Yeah, I can only see Lungo.
Right.
Yeah.
So now, so I have, you see, even in terms of representation, we have a problem. Even so, how are we going to determine, particularly from Forum CC, that we have recruited people, and we are people who are there and doing that work which we undertook to do, if they don't even participate in this very important exchange we have. In other words, so this actually is a reflection of what our teams are doing on the ground. And I think, I don't know whether it's to say that we don't have those people, because this is the only way in this participation, we at the Secretariat interact with these people. We trust our people at the national level in the platforms to really mobilize and see whether we are really, there is value for what we are doing, particularly because we are facilitating them. And the strength of networks is the membership, but this is even not membership. We are just trying to see whether in the presence, in the circumstances which we find ourselves, there are people there. So let me start by expressing my dissatisfaction and disappointment with the way we are already working, and this is actually may not continue, because this is exactly why we had to call this meeting, so that we really explore whether to continue with this kind of work or not. We have to determine whether it is our platforms who are not doing what we are supposed to do. We wanted to check whether our platforms are really supervising or getting interactions with these people. So, to me, without even hearing from the individual platforms, I can see a problem. It's very problematic. But we are going to make a decision or to make a conclusion once we hear what's happening. Because now it was an exchange. In circumstances where we have only 5 Tanzania colleagues, actually majority of them, because they are supposed to have 10 plus 10 is 20, at least 20, but we have only around 5. So what does that tell you? Is it commitment, or was it time that people were not told? But this is actually a virtual meeting, which all of them should have been there. Is it the gadget? Is it the problem of power in where they stay? So we need actually to understand all this, because if there is going to be an exchange now from the Kenya counterparts who have really, most of them are here. Now, who are they going to exchange with if there is the group from Tanzania is not there? So I think I'm quite lost in what to do, because this is not actually going to be an exchange, because we don't have Tanzanians colleagues, counterparts there. Unless we just discuss, Eugene, what do you think now we do here? Because we can see majority of the people are here are Kenyan, from the Kenyan platform. It seems there was no mobilization from Tanzania, the counterpart, because it was to learn. It was just a learning. So if the counterpart platform is not there, so what learning are we going to have?
I think not to, it's quite disturbing what you've observed. And I think not to penalize the Kenyan platform that has actually prepared for this meeting and have sent in advance all their presentations as requested. We may just proceed as we planned and invite the Tanzanians to sit up, especially when they would be a lead platform later on in the next coming days. Otherwise, there doesn't seem to be any other way forward. I wouldn't advise that we call it off.
All right. So, all right. So maybe what was the Kazula? Is it Kazula who is the coordinator for Tanzania?
Sarah.
I
think so. That was the name.
All right. So let's hear. Yeah, I think I think we have noted that, and these are some of the lessons we'll be actually noting, so that we see how we are going to improve from there subsequently to the other platforms. I was not saying that we have to postpone or to cancel. No, it's just the purpose of having this is exactly this. How are we going to be our own prefect, to prefect ourselves, so that now when we say we have this at this hour, we are there? Because you are people we are relying on at the very grassroots, so that we are sure that we have a grassroots member in Lamu, and this is a person who is functional there. I can see Rebecca has come. Welcome, Rebecca. So that being the case, can we now, I leave you now, the moderator, to just start inviting. We start with the Kenyan platform coordinator, so that she can introduce, and then the program can flow.
Thank you very much, Edie. Thanks again, everyone. As you must have read from the emails, the format for these webinars is quite unique in that we pair up platforms so that they can learn from each other. This afternoon, it's the Kenyan platform that is providing leadership, and therefore we're going to invite them to share with us their experiences over the last 3 months. We gave you guys a few guidelines just to organize your work in terms of what are some of the main actions that you have carried out, and what are the lessons that are coming out of those actions, and what do you think we can do to strengthen this initiative. I'd like to invite Marine to introduce her team, starting with the thematic coordinator for mitigation. I think that's Jacob. Marine?
Thank you so much, Eugene, and thank you, team, for setting this up. So I will not take much of their time because we need to listen to their presentations as well. So we've got 3 designated persons who are going to represent their different cohorts. So for the thematic coordinator, the coordinator's team is going to be represented by Jacob Bolonde, who is the thematic coordinator for mitigation, and is going to do a presentation that mirrors what that team has been doing throughout the year, or for the period of contract. And then we will have also a young digital activist by the name Philbert Aganyo, who will be doing his presentation, also representing the young digital activists at the national level to mirror what they've been doing during the contracted period. And then we will have, last but not least, Alfonso Dipo, who is going to represent the community resource persons and is going to also present to us what they have done throughout the contracting period. And I would like also to say, Eugene, that although the team has joined late, but now we have 100% representation or attendance from the young digital activists. And then we have 99% attendance from the thematic coordinators. And then we have 98% attendance from the community resource persons. Thank you so much, Eugene. And I leave the floor to the person that you'd like to start.
Thank you very much. Jacob, can we start with you? To gain time, let me share your screen from my end since I have your presentation. Please go ahead and start speaking.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eugene. I don't know whether I'll be forced to, yes, now you are doing some good job. So I have the pleasure of representing Kenyan team, and I'm going to, because Tanzanians, my brothers from Tanzania have decided to give me all the time. So 10 minutes will be enough. And if I need a few minutes, I think I'll be rewarded. And I will want to say that as I finish, I would like to leave immediately because I have to run somewhere. Please move. Let me minimize the screen. Okay. So KPCG, as it is called, is Kenya Platform for Climate Change Governance. This is, as per now, is the most popular and representative civil society voice on climate change in Kenya. If you go to our handle on Twitter, you'll find this profile on our profile. The membership is made up of representation, organizations that engage and promote citizen voice, organizations undertaking advocacy, organizations we focusing on technical inputs, organizations which focus on capacity building, some which do service delivery, and others whose work entails social functions. So we have guys who are focused on arts. They use art to promote climate action. How we are organized? We are organized into 5 thematic working groups. One is mitigation, adaptation, climate finance, technology transfer, gender, and vulnerable groups. Move. Eugene, move. Our obligation is Our work is anchored on the obligations as highlighted in our various laws and policy instruments. One obligation is to comply with the climate change obligations to be imposed by the National Climate Change Council. So we have the Climate Change Council under the Climate Change Act 2016, whose key role is to coordinate climate action in Kenya. So our work is anchored on that. Then second is to petition the Environment and Land Courts and any other court on matters to do with climate change mitigation, adaptation, and other efforts which might not go in tandem to the aspirations of our country in terms of climate change commitments. Number three is to create awareness to its members on climate change adaptation and mitigation interventions, and not just to members, but also to stakeholders and the public on climate change issues. Next is achievements so far. What have we achieved so far? I'm afraid I'm not going to be specific on this, but I'm going to mention some of the things we have done. One, we have been able to improve the population access to climate information. We act as a bridge between research institutions and the population. Now, you'll be told that PACTA is engaging in a lot of research currently, and these are done by universities and research institutions so that once we get the information, we share with the public so that they know what's happening. Secondly is that we give voice to the most vulnerable groups by ensuring that there's acknowledgement and representation of these groups in public policy forums. Example, we have MPIDO, we have Marsabit Climate Change Forums and other forums. Next, we also promote accountability as a strategy to ensure quality and transparency in the management and administration of climate change finance by ensuring diverse actors' participation. So here we have so many, already we have climate change finance regulations, we have, everybody's talking about climate change finance, but we are much concerned about transparency, quality, and efficiency in the management and administration of those funds. Then secondly, promoting a participatory and inclusive disaster risk reduction by promoting locally led adaptation approaches. Three is we actively participate in inter-institutional coordination spaces, fora at local, national, and international levels. Local fora, we hold so many forums around here. We have Technoca holding various thematic working groups, like the mitigation I lead. We have this called Just Transition Dialogues, which I think we are on the 6th one currently. So we engage, we host and also participate in the partner fora. Then what are the obstacles to our work? One, ineffective coordination of climate change actions. Everybody is doing everything. So it's really difficult to find a niche and find a path to influence. Two is slow and bureaucratic processes involved in policy dialogue and formulation. When you want to hold a meeting, you will be told, oh, who is not going to be around, the governor is not going to be around, the minister is not going to be around. So it's so difficult to really get the best time to meet up with the policy people. Let me use that simple term. Then three is political interference. Like the coal power plant that we had a proposal in Kenya. It was like politically decided. Everybody was saying, why these guys making noise? Why the CSOs making noise? Because already a decision has been made up there. So, but we have been successful so far. So there is political interference in climate action. Then there's lack of a prioritized advocacy agenda. We have, as a platform in Kenya, we have advocacy strategy already, and that's what's guiding our work. But broadly, we just find people talking about climate change and trying to influence through different windows, and that is really bringing confusion. Then lack of policy champions for the identified issues. It's really difficult to get the person in charge of mitigation, adaptation. So in the platform, what we are trying to do now is to ensure that we identify experts within ourselves. So we have adaptation experts within the adaptation thematic working group, a mitigation expert, climate finance experts. So we build expertise from within so that we don't rely on the outside expertise. 4 is a low funding base to undertake climate policy advocacy. Mithika will tell you, and Marine, we demand a lot of money and to fund a lot of things and a lot of activities, but that money is not enough. So that's a real obstacle to our work. Then limited capacity and ability to contribute to the national climate change agenda within ourselves. Not everybody is an expert. We really still struggle to ensure that every member of the platform knows what we are talking about and is capable and able to contribute meaningfully to the climate change policy process and even other actions. Then 8, we have low level of awareness on climate change. Generally, there's so many people who are still asking, what is this climate change? You guys are just making noise. You don't want development. So those are some of the issues. Going forward, what will we be doing? What will we be doing? And what are we doing now? So I've combined what in relation to what we are doing now. Going forward, what we look forward to still be doing, we'll still be focusing on issues of climate change and sustainable development, because that seems to be our call. 2 is we look forward to being grounded in sector experiences, evidence-based, non-violent and non-partisan approaches. Sector experiences that climate change cuts across. So we cannot just say we are going to look into the energy, promoting renewable energy. No, that is very important, yet we are going also to continue looking at agriculture, transport sector, and other related sectors. Then evidence-based research. Time is up for just talking. You must anchor your action on data. 60%, 100 million, what? So we are going to emphasize on this. And that's why I think Packager has been really instrumental in linking with the universities to ensure that our actions are research backed. Non-violence, that is, and then non-partisan approaches. Even if there's politics, we are not going to take any side, and that's our resolve. Then 3, be influenced by the plans and positions of CSO member organizations. We are made up of various CSOs as a platform. So what we are doing is that we are feeding into each other. So the platform is up here and the CSOs are feeding into the platform. So that this platform do not kill the CSOs, but offer a favorable environment for the CSOs to grow and be able to achieve their goals as per their own agenda. Number 4 is we'll continue to involve collaboration and coordination with key stakeholders in the climate change sector. We can't do it on our own, and we have never been doing it on our own, but we have to work with the rest of the stakeholders in the sector. And with that, I say thank you so much for your listening. I've been so much speedy, but I hope you got me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it would be more productive if we allow your colleagues to run their presentations before we invite the rest of the participants to either comment or ask questions. So if you don't mind, kindly hang around until you're able to take a number of questions before you can move on to your next engagements. Let's hear from Philbert now. Philbert is a YDA. You want to share your screen, or should I do that for you?
Let me share mine from my end. I think it should be up in a very like a few minutes. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity, and this is a presentation that for the sake of, I'm sure there are a few of our Tanzanian colleagues from here, so I will just go through everything, but also just be careful to mention that this is part of the presentation that I'm going to make has already been shared with our Packager colleagues. We had a meeting sometime in November, and we shared some of these sentiments. We were like taking stock of what the YDAs have done for the last for the last 3 months. We've only been in activity for about 3 or so months. So I'm just going to share my screen right now. The host has disabled this. Would you be kind enough to allow me share?
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Okay, let me see. Share screen. Okay, I don't know why it's showing keynote unknown.
All right, if it's going to take us time, let me quickly share the screen from this end.
Please.
I have the presentation with me.
Please do it on your part, on your side. Oh, I think it has to do with the...
There we go. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Eugene, and to the entire team. This is an opportunity and a privilege, and I want to thank you all for the privilege to represent the YDAs from Kenya in this. Please let us move to the next slide. I'd want to look at it a little bit more. Next slide, please. Yeah, let me first of all just emphasize the fact that there's a lot of talk around digital activism, digital media, and digital communications. But in essence, these are just, this is a space that requires a multi-stakeholder kind of effort. And there are a lot of technical skills, artistic skills, and analytical and production coordination skills that need to be put together in a melting pot of sorts so that quality content can be generated that will be shared with the people. Now, my colleague Jacob talked about the gap that still is. People are still asking questions like, what is climate change? And the most unfortunate bit of it is some believe that climate change is a hoax. And I'm not going to mention names, but these are widely quoted dignitaries or persons with the high ranks in the global order. But looking at all that, that simply, to me, I don't look at it as a gap. I look at it as an opportunity for us to bombard, for lack of a better term, the digital space with credible information that can dispel or rather diffuse some of these notions or misconceptions that people have about climate change. And so I look at the digital media as, besides its definition as a blend of technology, I look at the digital space as the next frontier where battles are going to be fought. And if you want a team or you want an army that is going to defeat an enemy in any kind of warfare, then you would want a rightly trained army. Please take me to the next slide, even as we move ahead. So the YDAs or the Young Digital Activists exist specifically to fill that gap. They're like this army, this well-trained workforce that is going to do what? To do this work of doing battle. Now, what are some of the achievements that the Kenyan YDAs have been able to achieve? Now, I'll also want to reiterate that when we go online, we don't go there as YDAs. We go online as KPCG, as the Kenya Platform for Climate Governance. Now, there's a particular reason why I'm mentioning that. Nobody's going to look at Philbert, nobody's going to look at Innocent. I'm just mentioning some of my colleagues, or even Snyder. People are going to look at this, the information that is on this page as the voice of the Kenya Platform for Climate Governance, irrespective of who are the members of KPCG. And so there's a lot of significance in the information and even in how we articulate information that goes around on the platform. And that is why in our visibility, our Facebook account is Kenya Platform for Climate Governance, similar to the Twitter account. And that also calls to our colleagues. We made this appeal the last time we had this conversation, that this is a collective effort. CRPs, YDAs, or thematic coordinators, all of us should work together so that the content that goes out there represents the voice of the platform. Now, the second achievement that we have attained is digital activism. We have consistently advocated, we have offered leadership on climate change issues. As a matter of fact, yesterday, if you look at our Twitter feed, yesterday's conversation was on tree planting. And we are simply talking about very simplistic issues. What is the significance, or what is the benefit of planting trees or growing trees for that matter? So we have offered that kind of leadership on topics. We are trying to use simple language and simple examples to achieve some of those results. And social media capacity building, this is something we did with our colleagues from Meru. Well, I have to mention this, that the YDA platform, we present a common front, but ideally we come from different parts of this country. Kenya has over 47 counties, and one of our desires is to have at least every county represented in this platform of YDAs, so that we are alive to some of the issues that are happening at the grassroots level. And so we did a capacity building for our colleagues from Meru in that regard. What you see there in the next slide is just examples. When we last made this presentation, our Twitter account had 162 followers. Right now, you can see this is today. This was taken today. It's at 179. Same way with Facebook. Our last presentation, we had 224. Right now, you can see we have about 280 likes. That simply tells you that slowly but surely, information and spread about the kind of work that we do is being recognized. Next slide, please. Next slide.
It's coming. There's a lag time.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. The progress thus far. This is just some of the conversations that we have engaged in. I believe the internet is. They say the internet never forgets. It's like a digital archive or a library where you can find some of these discourses. So we are trying to leave a digital footprint that people can always refer to even later. And that also, let me just mention, informs the kind of communication that we need to be sending out there, because people can always hold you accountable for the information that is shared out there. I believe this is a lesson that cuts across board, and even our colleagues from Tanzania will share the same. Next slide, please.
Just be patient. There's a 30-second lag time between the slides.
Not a problem. Totally understandable. So again, just to mention that this work will also still have some of its ups and downs, what we call challenges or other limitations, and also merits, or rather some of the strengths that we have. And so what you see there is a slide showcasing some of the challenges that we have faced as the Kenyan YDA's training and capacity building. Training cuts across border, and what I've written there is that in spite of the technical competence that most of us have, digital activism is a dynamic space. Today there's Zoom, tomorrow there's going to be something else, WebEx. So there are so many platforms that we still need to do what, to be alive to. And so the dynamic nature of the digital space calls for constant or continuous training and capacity development. And this is one of the things that we are advocating for. And we are hoping that when we are able to reach a particular level of technological, or rather, let me call it digital comprehension, and then I believe we will be achieving we will be hitting some of the high notes in as far as digital activism or advocacy is concerned. Our reporting template, this is something that has been mentioned. I think I want to mention this. I'm not so sure what our Tanzanian colleagues are using to report on some of their work. Maybe I think that is the essence of this discussion. We would want, or rather I would wish that we have a harmonized reporting template so that we are able to know exactly what we are reporting on, or whether we are actually achieving our results. And again, this is something that we are appealing to our colleagues from PACJA to ensure that is done. I'm glad to report that during the same workshop that we had the M&E team, and they actually talked positively about a reporting tool that is being developed. So at the moment, we are still using the old reporting template, but we would wish that a reporting template is developed very fast, so that we also have a training on the same, so that YDAs can be able to know exactly what they ought to hit. We had a slight problem with the delay of stipends, because this is where we draw our data bundles from. Well, we use data bundles to make these communications. And so we presented this as one of the challenges that we have had, because there were some episodes of delays in the submission of the same. But I know the PACJA team, the Secretariat is already handling this. Membership and task allocation. This is a particular challenge that we faced from the Kenyan side, because we are trying to harmonize how we work. We want dedicated teams to handle Twitter, dedicated teams to handle Facebook, and dedicated teams to handle Instagram and any other social media channel. And so again, this can only happen when we know clearly who is doing what. Thank you so much. Next slide, please. I added a slide, a component of opportunity, and the opportunities that we have, these are, most of these came from the reactions to the statements, or rather this presentation. And so we are simply trying to look at what opportunities are still out there for the YDAs and the work of digital activism. And of course, the first biggest opportunity, an opportunity is something that can make your work better, or something that you can leverage to heighten your experience, or to do that which you're doing even better. And a realization that we come from different time zones is one significant opportunity. Why? Because we can engage in the work of activism round the clock without necessarily having to worry about the people in Jamaica are asleep right now. Yes, they are asleep, but they will wake up and they will find that information still out there. And so again, if we learn to synergize our efforts, if for example, there are YDAs in Ivory Coast, I know you guys are probably maybe the Ivory Coast or Senegal, they're probably maybe 6 hours behind. So again, if we have a way of harmonizing our efforts and having coordinated activities, maybe we want to take over Twitter at the same time, then this is something that will involve us having to coordinate ourselves. But time zones, again, I don't look at it as a challenge, I look at it as an opportunity. Creative and innovative potential. This specifically came from this is a challenge that came from our executive director, Dr. Mithika. He challenged the YDAs to make even more use of the innovative and creative nature of the digital space. Now, there are particular messages that can be coined in various ways. You know, if you write a blog, yes, it will have an effect, but if you put it in a video, it will even have more effect. It will have an even bigger reach. So again, we have not yet harnessed the full potential of the creative and innovative nature of the digital space. And this is a challenge that we are taking in positively. I wrote there that due to low capacity. So once we get a significant capacity, we will be able to challenge some of these to counter some of these challenges that we have faced. Limitless and unbounded. This is just a terminology that refers to there are no boundaries within the digital space. Nobody's going to ask you to well, unless maybe prescribed by the professional conduct or ethics like the hate speech or incitement, I believe information can always be shared. And there's no one single person who has a monopoly of knowledge. So knowledge can always be shared on the digital space without any limit or without any boundary. Another opportunity is the direct messaging capabilities of the digital space, where we have the potential or have the capacity to send a direct message to the various stakeholders that we want to target. And so can YDAs embrace this potential? The last but not least, there is the ready audience that is presented to us by the digital space, real-time messaging and analytics. If you leave a digital footprint, the digital space allows you to conduct analytics and to find out for yourself whether indeed you have been able to reach that potential. I think with proper training and heightened capacity, we can be able to utilize fully the functionalities of Twitter analytics, Facebook analytics, so that every month maybe we give a report. As we do our reports, we also give an analytical report of what was our total reach. Instead of figures, we also present still figures, but more factual figures that can be interpreted as to how we are faring on. So last but not least, I believe the last slide should be on recommendations that we are making, even as I draw this to a close. One of the biggest recommendations that we are making, of course, is training and capacity. And I believe this goes a long way because, again, you cannot, the digital space is not something that you can say someone is going to learn by following lead. There are particular components that you can learn as you watch other people do. For example, creating a Twitter account. I mean, someone can simply give you the instructions and you do that. But there are various technical components that you must only, that can only be imparted through advanced training. And of course, not every training, relevant training. I was looking at one of the sponsored ads on Facebook. They have this masterclass on digital marketing. And I tried to click on the link to see what it costs. Well, there's a cost factor attached to it. But I think every YDA, this is a recommendation that every YDA should be facilitated or should be supported to be able to obtain some of these certificates that are offered by recommended digital training institutions, or rather organizations like Facebook, for example. I know Google also has a Google Digital Skills, Digital Garage kind of certificate. I would want to represent a team that I know very well has all these, let me call it, all this technical kind of know-how, because I know some of us in our respective individual capacities, we already obtained these certificates. But for the sake of us being on the same plate, I want to appeal that maybe more support should be given to the YDS so that we are able to, all of us, attain this level of comprehension of the digital space. I will not belabor the remaining other components, but let me also talk about the cross linkages with the thematic working groups and CRPs. Like I said before, when I was starting, when we go online, we don't go online as YDAs. We go online as the Kenyan Platform for Climate Governance. And that means both CRPs, thematic working groups, and their coordinators are all there. The executive director of PACJA is in there, because people will ask, this is the organization that you are affiliated to. How come they're speaking contrary to what your ideals are? And so again, there needs to be close monitoring and close conversations amongst ourselves, even as we move along. Last but not least, collective effort. I think that still echoes the same point that we're talking about, that every member, every affiliate, and every associate of PACJA and KPCG on Twitter and Facebook should be encouraged and motivated to join these online discourses. It's not just going to be a discussion when maybe the YDAs are having a Twitter conversation. It is not just a conversation between the YDAs. It should be a conversation that involves every other person and affiliate and associate of PACJA. And then again, I think just to belabor that point is that every other person who is here, we encourage even our colleagues from Tanzania, please find us on the social media, follow us, give us a like. We'd be glad to also do the same. And let us build a community of well-informed populace on climate change and climate action. Thank you so much. What you have there is a journey of 1,000 miles, begins with one step. Of course, we've only been in action for 3 months. The future is bright. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Philbert, for that very detailed presentation. Without making any real promises, I think your recommendation about training is quite in line with the plans we have. We already have in the works a proposal to develop a training in digital activism for YDAs. That should be coming up, if things go as planned, early next year, perhaps towards the end of January. So you will be informed about that. Now, you did mention, and I just want to quickly react because some of the issues you have raised are quite important. You did mention the need for coordination and for this possibility to work across time zones. We have set up a community. We're trying to bring all the YDAs from all of the 8 countries into a single community so that even across boundaries, you can coordinate your work. Unfortunately, I don't think I've seen the Kenyan platforms on the WhatsApp group that we've set up. There must have been some miscommunication. I'm going to work with Maureen to ensure that all of you are joined. We did request for social media profiles a few months ago. The idea was to be able to set up this community so that you know each other, you know what their Twitter handles are, what your Facebook pages are, so that you can talk among yourselves. So this is really a work that is needs some time to mature, but I'm glad that this is coming up now. I don't want to comment on everything you have said. Let me quickly invite Alphonse, who's representing the CRPs, the community resource persons, to, in 10 minutes, do a presentation, and we'll use the remaining time to have a conversation around all of the issues that have been raised. Alphonse? Is Alphonse with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you, and I am sharing your slides now. Please take it up from here.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Alphonse, a CRP representing, in that slide, it is indicated LREB, which is Lake Region Economic Bloc. That is the southwestern part of this country, counties of Bomet, Kisii, and Kisumu. So next slide, please. Yeah, that is the outline of my presentation. Yeah, it will be very brief. First, the rationale of this engagement, why CRP, then progress, lessons and challenges, then my recommendations. Yeah, from the diagram, yeah, you can see the position of the CRP and the YDS. This is the overall engagement of KPCG and PACJA. So the CRPs act as the linkage between the community to Council of Governors, that is county governments, and to the national platform. That is the engagement. Next. So the progress so far, I'll be speaking on what I've been doing in the LREB region, which I believe mirrors what everybody is doing on their respective regions. For number one, that is community responsive climate policies. What I do in the counties of Bomet, Kisii, and Kisumu is the establishment of climate finance mechanisms within the county governments. And this arrangement have 4 components, which is the climate change fund that establishes the fund within the county governments. Then there is county planning committees, ward planning committees, and there is climate information services. So where the CRP comes in that arrangement is that in the last 3 months, within the community, we've engaged with the communities, and within the climate information services, they have come up with an app that gives them the daily weather patterns and daily briefs, so that assists them on agricultural produces, livelihoods, and that. And within the ward planning committees, they are able to come up with their priority climate actions that they want to be funded by the climate change fund within the county governments. So then locally led climate actions within the grassroots levels, which is a project funded by World Bank, that is FLOCA, and should begin early next year. Then research-based advocacy, making use of indigenous knowledge, community capacity building for improved climate resilience, that is awareness creation within the communities and the authorities. Lessons learned so far: participatory scenario planning ensures community ownership of programs towards locally led climate actions. This, in layman's language, is involving the community to plan for their actions, what they want, so that it also entails ownership. Use of local indigenous knowledge is fundamental in evidence-based advocacy and research. Partnership within the local levels with the existing actors, the county government themselves and the people, the CBOs, increases pools of enabling resources and expertise relevant in various programs implementation. Then adaptive programming ensures continuity and sustainability. As you are all aware, the year has been marred by the pandemic. So all the work plans of the year have gone to the drain. So we had to adapt to the challenges so that we work with the existing resources and emerging issues. Then introduction of the CRPs and YDAs have cemented the work of PACTUR through its national platform at grassroots levels. The challenges are diversity and magnitude of climate challenges experienced in different regions of the country. Whatever is experienced in Bomet is different from that of Kisii and Kisumu. Then this one means adaptive programming and approach, then lack of sufficient awareness, capacity among the people in areas of engagement. Then the pandemic has diverted attention and priorities of relevant authorities, making climate change a runaway problem. People have diverted resources to other emerging issues. Nobody is concerned with climate change at this point. Then the disconnect between CRPs and YDAs and the elephant in the room, limited resources. Recommendation, one of the CRP from within my platform mentioned deliberate outreach to the private sector. She's dealing with the private sector. So she's recommending an outreach from PACTUR to the private sector so that they can sign an MOU of engagement to make her work easier. Then upscaling of CRP program to increase targeted community involvement for better climate advocacy and awareness. Then partnership with other actors and county governments may solve the challenge of resource and political goodwill. Then I believe assigning each CRP a YDA should help amplify what is happening at grassroots to the national level. Then training of CRPs on climate governance to improve on the work they are doing. Then link local CRPs to their regional counterparts for learning and knowledge sharing purposes. Yeah, in a nutshell, that is what I'm here to present.
Thanks very much. That was brief, but quite straight to the point as well. We've heard the issues of capacity building keep coming up. I think we may already pen that down at one of the things that is emerging from this discussion, but I would want to invite at this point Dr. Mithika, if he has some general comments on the presentations, and then I'll open up the floor for the participants to equally ask questions or make some contributions.
Thank you, Eugene. I can only join you in congratulating the presenters, and they have really done very excellent work. The purpose of this platform is exactly that, to hear what those who are working at the front line are doing, to hear the challenges which they have, the opportunities which they think that we can continue with this program and improve our work, and finally, what they recommend. And I think I've heard that so much. But today is not my day. I want now, what we need to do now is to hear from the Tanzania, that actually their counterpart. What, in a sense, you have heard from the YDAs from Kenya, you have heard CRPs from KPCG, you have heard the MATI coordinators. So the floor now is open for you to ask questions, not only questions, your comments, and what you feel, whether what you are is exactly happening from your side. So it's just simple as that. So the few minutes, the more than, I think, 30 minutes which are left is now to hear from now the coordinator, for instance, from Tanzania, the CRPs from Tanzania, the YDs from Tanzania, whether this is exactly the context. This is exactly the experiences from your area.
Thanks very much, Mithika. Kelly, I can see your hand, but let me first hear from Rebecca, whether there are any, as Mithika has pointed out, whether there are any areas of convergence with what you have heard, or areas of divergence in terms of those experiences with your YDAs, CRPs, and thematic leads.
Okay, thank you, Eugene. Hey, everyone. This is Rebecca. I'm sorry for the Tanzanian team to delay joining the meeting. But again, for us, we started earlier, I think, than the rest. So it's like we have already a kind of, give our goodbyes to most of the YDAs and CRPs. But so we had to mobilize them back to this meeting because we didn't have the guidance in the way forward. But at least some of them were able to join. Going back to the presentations, I think I get more or less experience that what we had in Tanzania, but our approach was a little bit different because the way we organize ourselves, we had direct linkage between thematic coordinators, YDAs, and CRP to make sure that we have that linkage throughout through these various levels. But what I see, despite our approach, which is a little bit different, but I see more or less experience, because it has really been difficult first to select especially the YDAs, to get people with skills and they like who have the digital skills at the same time who knows climate change. So we spend more time in terms of, training them, interest them on the issue of climate change, of which, again, I agree with the speaker that I think more capacity building is needed. So this is one of the areas that we have convergence. Yeah, but I haven't heard, I don't know who was supposed to say that, the issue of coordination. I would really love to hear how Kenyan team was coordinated from the platform and the rest of the YDAs and CRP, because we struggled. Despite that, we had this approach that we linked, like one thematic coordinator had like had 2 YDIs and 2 CRPs, but still the issue of linkage was really a challenge. So I wanted to hear from Kenyan counterpart how they coordinated and create that synergy and linkages between these teams, the CRP, YDAs, and I think that would be a very good lesson learned for us.
Thank you very much.
But again, the last thing, I would also really love to hear specifically that, they say the issue of policies and the like, but we would really want to see the experience, how the engagement was in terms of policy processes and what has changed. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Let me break the rule and instead invite Maureen to briefly describe how in Kenya they managed to coordinate between thematic leads, YDAs, and the community resource persons, And if any of our speakers would want to add something, then they can now add. Marine?
Thank you so much, Eugene, and thank you, Rebecca, for that question. What we did is that for us, it's a very clear path of communication between the YDAs, CRPs, and the thematic coordinators, simply because of the way our platform is designed. So looking at the different thematic, the 5 thematic areas that are in the platform that represents different sectors, that is mitigation, adaptation, gender, youth, and marginalized communities, and then the technology working group. So it was so easy. We did not assign the YDAs to any particular thematic working group because the work of young digital activists, so communication and information gathering and dissemination, cuts across all the 5 thematic working groups. So what we do in Kenya is that in most cases, the link between the information that touches on different thematic working areas and the issues and information that needs to be, popularized or discussed. But in most cases, like for the young digital activists, we go by the calendar of events. In cases where we have like now the discussions to shape the UNEA 5, UNEA 6 coming up. So when those discussions come up, all we do is throw the topics and make sure that we have the content to enable them to work online. And then for the community resource persons, again, it's also very easy. So you find that the community resource people will directly communicate to the thematic coordinator in case they need one capacity building, or they have an activity and they need the thematic coordinator with that expertise to give a talk or to present or to be a speaker in their activity. So in that case, they just make the direct request, of course. And one of the recent very, very good practice that we had is that we had community resource person from one of the communities making a direct request to the thematic coordinator because they needed the expertise, and they did an amazing job. So what happened is that we just saw the report, and we also upscaled that report to the thematic lead energy so that he can be in a position to also help us amplify the same success story. So for us, it's kind of not really rigid. So we are not assigning any thematic coordinator, any CRP, but what we are doing is that we are making them available because different CRPs and different thematic coordinators are interested, and YDAs are interested in different topics. So by the fact that we are not making them kind of aligned to one thematic area is what makes it interesting. So number one, what it does is that it makes the YDAs want to learn more. If somebody is not an expert in energy, but they find themselves reporting on energy, like just transition discussions that are going on, like the thematic coordinator said, so it will prompt them to learn more about energy. What policies are there? What are the gaps at the community level, and where can we engage? And that is how the relationship that we have. So what we do is that we have different WhatsApp groups where I make sure that we check in on a daily basis so that we see what are we going to do today, which issues are we going to engage on today, right from a CRP, thematic coordinator, and to the community resource person. So that is how we deal with it, Rebecca. I don't know whether that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it does provide some understanding about how you work. There was a second part of the question which had to do with how you engage policy processes. If Jacob is still in the room, can he take that question?
I think Jacob has left.
So do you want to jump in, or is any of?
I can jump in, or I can prompt Elijah, who is also the thematic coordinator for gender, youth, and marginalized community. He's currently involved with the Red Plus project, which is ongoing. So how that ties into the policy, I know he can be in a position to give that that information. Elijah, if you can hear me.
Elijah, please.
I know.
Good to hear from you.
Yeah.
Elijah, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes, sorry, I was just excusing myself to a position where we can be able to talk. Greetings, Good afternoon. I'm not sure if it's good morning to the moderator, Eugene, but greetings, brothers and sisters. My name is Elijah Toirai, coordinator, the Gender Youth Marginalized Working Group. Just allow me to follow up in the flexibility of the Kenyan platform arrangement or organization structure. It allows for not just a cross-cutting support between leads, the resource persons, the CRPs, and the digital activists, but it also allows for when across one thematic working group, we need the support of the other thematic working group. It's very easy for the respective coordinators or the respective leads to be able to cross-cut. That flexibility borrows out to within the specific thematic area, any happenings of relevance to the group can then be flexibly brought in. Merin has given the specific example of policy development and in terms of what is happening within the group and how we make it relevant. I'll take an example of the specific project she's mentioned. Kenya is undertaking a RED Plus readiness project to try and have the relevant required documentations for us to be RED Plus ready and hence to be able to usher in the next stage of possible benefits alongside conservation, carbon stocking, and all that. Now, as we are participating or undertaking various tasks, we keep the lens of one, briefing the group that is within the platform and within the specific thematic working group. And two, also having the second cap of while you are participating in your activity, you sort of have a second responsibility mandate, a second mandate as you're participating in the activity. You might be participating in it as a developer or a drafter or a participant or a stakeholder, but within yourself, you have an extra cap where we allow you to be able to speak for KPCG and hence be able to stand out for various acts. Take point an example. Half of yesterday and I think part of tomorrow will be supporting one county in Kenya called Nyeri to be able to develop their forest management, not climate change, but forest management and conservation bill. To do that, one of the elements that we've been able to borrow in a lot of our working platform is to be able to just analyze the stakeholders that have been engaged and insist on the involvement of the various actors, whether CSOs, in this case, I found that there were a few of them, to be able to just insist that they also be brought on board, to look, on my case, to look at the bill as being brought out and speak on behalf of the various gender groups integrated, how well engendered or rather how well developed, all-rounded the policy is. So when we take our platform's relevance to the various things that we are doing, either at an institutional level or at an individual level, we are able to create a larger playing ground for ourselves. That also allows us as a platform to be able to pick information from outside there and share within ourselves. And we always see you post something and someone else is able to run away with it, that this is very relevant to me at an individual level, to me at an organization level, or to me as a thematic working group. I could post something and then the mitigation working group lead or members pick it up and say, this is also relevant to me, to us, and they pick it up and be able to run away with it. So the flexibility and the non-rigid structure of the Kenyan platform is one lesson that I think the other platforms could consider in complementation to how they are structured themselves currently. Eugene, allow me to stop there for my pointer.
Thanks a lot. I did see Kelly's hand. Kelly, would you still want to take the floor? Just to say that you can also ask your questions using the chat. And I know that everyone registered when they joined the meeting, but please do use the link that is in the chat section to register again. That link collects a little more information than what Zoom could allow us to collect. So please look out for a message from Fides. The time stamp is, I think, 12:18, and fill out the form. Is Kelly still willing to speak? Kelly Roberts, yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Eugene, for this opportunity. First and foremost, I want to thank the PACTA fraternity for coming up with this initiative of having the YDAs and the CRPs. You've really engaged youths during this time of COVID, especially us as CRPs on the ground, because this is where the rubber meets the road. Because without us, I think information would be coming up there. So we have to have information from the village level or the community level so that we can bring it up there. I'm the CRP for Kwale County, and you know Kwale is vast. Kwale is in Kenya, in the coastal side of Kenya. Kwale is very vast. And right now we're in the process of coming up with a partial plan for Kwale County. And then you're also in the process of coming up with a public-private people partnership to save the coastal forest, of which here we are talking about the mangrove and the forest within the Kwale County. Mine is more of let me say the kind of what we go through down here. As I've said, I'm representing a very vast county, a very vast area, and it's really hard in terms of movement at times, and depending on looking at what we are getting, I think PACJA should look at the CRPs down here on the ground, because transport and traveling in these vast areas and meeting people on the ground is really kind of hectic at times. The other thing is, I think the office need to bring us into awareness on how to come to have a concept, how to write a concept, because we have so many activities that we really want to do down here, but how to conceptualize it so that can suit the office for it to maybe get funding for it to happen. It's becoming really a big problem, because for me, I've been having several activities, and I'm like, how do I come up with how do I conceptualize this? And because looking at the office itself, and my coordinator at one point told me that, you know, kindly come up with a concept, because then I will look at it and then see how to correct it. But how do we come up with a concept that the office will prefer good, so that they can see, they can fund, or they can look at an activity that is possibly can be done on the ground, especially with us CRPs. The other thing is that, you know, some of these village areas are not digital. So most of the time you have to go and meet the people. You can't have virtual meetings with them. So meeting these people, at times it depends with where you're meeting them. Some of them come from far, and joining them in one place, they'll want to be maybe reimbursed in one way or the other so that they can go back to where they came from. And that is also another hurdle that we are really facing. We can't have and most of the meetings that we must have in the ground is on one-on-one, because people don't have digital phones, they don't have smartphones to have these meetings. Basically, those are some of my concerns, and I hope the office is going to work on it. Thank you so much.
Thanks indeed. I think
Eugene,
yes.
I think, well, yeah, this is the first of this nature we are doing. This is actually not, but I'm sorry if what Kelly has said is right, but we wanted more questions to come from the Tanzanian counterparts to the Kenyan counterparts, comments, questions, and what they feel. I would admire more. I know that's a very good question, but today we want actually is like we want more questions, not to directed at the secretariat, the PACJA secretariat, but the counterpart, the host platform. The reason for this is that I know there are challenges. Even them in Tanzania, at Tanzania level, they have challenges. we want them to learn. After that, after we go through all the platform, maybe we are going to pick some of those questions, some of those concerns, some of those comments, so that now we can now gather them together. Perhaps we are going to have a meeting now with coordinators or select CRPs, so that now we look, yes, what do we need from there? How do we make it better? What are the recommendations, like the recommendations which have been submitted by or presented by the Kenyan YDs. So this generally what we want. And we are also going to ask questions based on what we hear from them.
Thank you for that call to order. I did see the hand of Dorcas. Can you take the floor now? And once Dorcas asks a question, I'm going to take one or two questions from the chat. Dorcas? Nope, she's not there. Here's a question from Lungo. What type of indigenous knowledge do you take? What type of indigenous knowledge you take of learned lessons as a CRP? So perhaps I think the question is, what concrete example of indigenous knowledge have you been able to come across? And that should be the question directed to Jacob, or Jacob is not here. Or Alphonse. Alphonse, can you, what kind of indigenous knowledge have you come across?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, an example of indigenous knowledge we use right now is conservation of indigenous forests and weather forecast, indigenous knowledge on weather forecast. This helps the meteorological department within the county governments to assist the people in disseminating the same information to farmers, fisher farmers, livestock keepers, and relevant agencies, so that it can assist them do their daily activities. So the indigenous knowledge is fed within the app I mentioned earlier, that give weather forecast from meteorological department to the farmers through their smartphones.
Thanks a lot. Let me hear from Collins. I think, Collins, you have something to add as a response.
Thanks, Eugene. Just a quick one on the indigenous knowledge. We have been able to apply a bit of research and back it up with the indigenous knowledge, especially on the OSEA building community climate resilience through land use planning, which we actually work with Tanzania on. Part of how we sort of package that information is that we've been able to partner with local communities, especially up north, pastoral communities in Kajiado, Marsabit, Isiolo, and the like, to be able to know how they have been able to manage their land properly, to actually know how to reduce emissions, because we actually know that developing countries are majorly, the contribution or rather climate change exacerbating impacts are arising from agriculture, land, and other forestry sort of activities or deforestation activities. So what we have been able to do is find ways of how the communities earlier manage their lands and how we can actually package this particular information to really look at ways that we can recommend to policymakers, especially in policy guiding. Elijah will tell you that we had a meeting with them in Naretunoi Conservancy, and we were just trying to look at, apart from what is written in the books, how has the community lived before and how have they managed their land properly to ensure that they were climate resilient in that particular time, and then carry this information forward to ensure that at least we are recommending those particular indigenous knowledge or other knowledge packages to the policymakers for guidance on land use planning for proper community climate resilience.
Thanks. Henry has a question. How did you manage to reach out to communities with limited internet access and in spite of COVID-19 restrictions? Let me bring in Philbert. I hear what he has to say, and if Alphonse wants to add something, that would be great. Philbert, how do you reach out, especially with limited internet access, but also in a situation where even physical contact is limited? Is Philbert not here anymore? All right. Alphonse?
Yes, yes. I can see a question from Baraka Lenga. How we deal with lack of sufficient awareness.
The question is the one from Henry. How do you reach out in spite of the lockdown and in spite of limited access to internet? Have you devised anything to go around that?
Yeah, I see that, and I also want to answer the one from Baraka.
No problem, but let's start with this one, and then you can connect the two. Go ahead.
One of the ways we manage the lack of internet accessibility, we convene barazas, but having in mind all the measures, COVID-19 measures, we organize for barazas within the community level with the representation from opinion holders from the community level. We engage with them physically. Where virtual meeting is possible, you can also do that. But also the one with the lack of sufficient awareness. One example is when we were doing public participation for Kisumu Climate Finance Bill, we had to translate the bill to vernacular language, and we did the public participation for all the 35 wards of that county. So we talk to people about climate change with the language they understand, their local dialect. That is how we deal with that insufficient awareness. And the issue of internet connectivity, we meet them physically.
Thanks very much. Then can you quickly take the questions from Baraka? Alphonse, did we lose you?
No, I'm here. I've answered that from Baraka, insufficient awareness.
Oh, I see. All right.
Yeah.
Let's take one more question from, no, let me skip Henry for now. How do you overcome the problem of political leaders? You mentioned, I think it's still you, Alphonse, or that must have been Jacob, that there is political interference, but not only that, but the inability to work seamlessly with politicians can slow down your work. How do you overcome that? That's a question from, I think, Lungo. Innocent, do you want to say something? I see you raising.
Thank you, Eugene. I just wanted to pick up the last question by Henry on. I think his question is on at this times of COVID-19, how we've been able to continue working. So for the YDS in Kenya, what we do is we identify the different CRPs working in different activities at the community level, and we incorporate them in our activities at the different social media platforms that we undertake. In terms of how they are supported, I think at this particular point in time, what we are doing is just trying to link up the efforts at the community level and the CRPs that are mandated to follow up on that, and also our efforts at the social media platform. So to that end, I think we are able to ensure that information goes down, and also we're able to showcase that on the different social media platforms.
Thanks a lot. We've entered the last 10 minutes of our conversation, and there has been a question about coordination that has come up over and over. As a way of putting that to bed, let me invite my colleague Charles or Salina. I think I saw one of them in the room, to briefly explain how that coordination works. We've heard from Kenya how it works at a national level, but at the continental level, how is this organized so that these different communities can be able to speak to each other? Charles or Salina? I don't have everybody in front of me, so I'm just throwing that out.
All right, thank you so much, Eugene. And can you hear me?
Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Eugene. And apologies. I was not in the meeting at the beginning because there was another parallel meeting that I was focusing on, but I joined the discussion of the video. But let me take this opportunity first and foremost to thank especially our coordinators from Tanzania and from Kenya, Marine and Rebecca. I won't say this, and I'm not saying this because the teams are here. In terms of reporting and in terms of execution, of the work by the CRPs, the YDAs and the market coordinators, Tanzania and Kenya were really ahead. I don't know whether it's because they're close to the heart, Secretariat. I don't think so. I think it's because of able coordination from Marine and from Rebecca, because the kind of reports we've been seeing coming through from Tanzania and from Kenya really have been impressive, and I think that is quite commendable. But to your question regarding then how is coordination happening at continental level, I won't say at the very beginning, of course, we had webinars targeting the teams. I remember we had one webinar with the Tanzania and also one with Kenya, really to explain about how reporting will be happening and how we are coordinating all this kind of work. And I think it has been clear that the CRPs, the YDAs, of course, have been reporting through the market coordinators, and of course the market coordinators really coordinating very well with the coordinator, the national coordinator of the platforms, and then of course the national coordinator now finally of course communicates now the information highly synthesized report from from the DNPs and I mean from the teams, the various teams working at various levels. We had also indicated at the beginning when you are launching this initiative that the YDS would also, particularly also report the head of communication, who is Eugene. And I think we tried. We probably didn't 100% achieve that because of our challenges here and there in terms of reporting. But I think we started off quite well, and this was some information coming through. In terms of traffic that you are seeing through our social media platforms, particularly Facebook and again Twitter, I got some little bit of analysis from Renette that since the initiative started, really, we had quite some traffic really on our Facebook and Twitter because people are posting, tweeting, and actually retweeting, posts, from all over, and I think that was commendable. I know 3 months was not really enough, really, to put everything into perspective, but at least there was some progress, which is quite commendable.
Thanks very much, Charles. Would Salina want to say something before I invite Dr. Mendwa to close the discussion?
Eugene, hi. Good afternoon, everybody. I came in really, I've just come in from another meeting, so I haven't followed the conversation at all. There are so many meetings running around and it's difficult to manage all of them. But I just want to say that I appreciate the initiative to have these webinars to interact with the countries and also to to hear also how the young the young colleagues, the youth that have been recruited to this to our platforms are engaging very well. And just to say thank you again to Rebecca and to Marine for the good work that they are doing. I will try my very best to be in the next meeting if there are no other parallel meetings that require the head of programs to be there. So otherwise, I wish you all very good work. Thank you very much, Eugene.
Thanks very much. Talking about the next meeting, I was planning to send you an email later today because the meeting of tomorrow is entirely in French. So we might need you to come in early and say a few words before that meeting begins, even if you want to leave thereafter.
Thank you. I would love to be in that. If you just send me the program and the invite as early as possible, then I make the necessary arrangements.
I'll do that. Thank you very much. I think that this has been a very worthwhile discussion. I see that there's still a lot of unanswered questions, and I'm glad that some of the participants are providing responses to some of the questions that we have in the chat section. But I also think that most of the answers we are seeking will be answered as the different webinars unfold. Again, the two groups, Kenya and Tanzania, still have an opportunity to interact further, and some of those questions would be answered at those different opportunities. At this moment, let me invite Dr. Mwenda, who has sat through this with us, to say a few words, and that would be it from our end.
Thank you, Eugene. First, I'll start by really also thanking you for organizing this. This is unprecedented. Is some of our creative work. Remember, we have survived because of our creativity. And I think all will agree with me that this is a very valuable platform for engagement, for information exchange, knowledge exchange, and actually sharing the challenges. I'm quite impressed by the question, for instance, raised by Sarah Goi, and then immediately it is answered by Kimson. If you gather that, that is actually purpose for this. You know, a counterpart, somebody living in Lamu is interacting and asking a question from somebody living in Dar es Salaam. You know, this is some of the things, and you know, that's interland. So this is very interesting. I think by the end of the week, we will have really learned. And one of the things which we are going to see is really that richness of information exchange. Let me thank Rebecca Marine for making this happen. And I think we are going to exercise at the Secretariat, exploring. Remember, this was just work for a few weeks, but we want to explore whether we could integrate this into our longer program. And I think there is reason to do that. So you are helping us to really think at very grassroots level. We are helping us to really do very transformative things and actions. This work we are doing actually is not business as usual. You know, business as usual is where we just exchange information, just we do meeting just for the sake of it. But I'm sure that what we are doing is quite creative and innovative. So I know there are going to be interactions all over. I know the forum is the next meeting with, I don't know, their counterpart in another country and Kenyan's platform. Just look at when they are going to be hosting, you can follow. You are not stopped from following when a counterpart network is. That way, I think now the presentation by forums will be even improved from what they have heard from Kenya. Others are saying, and they are going to have experiences. At the end of, we require Eugene, in consultation with the national leaders, to really have a report highlighting some of those challenges raised, what is common with others, and then that report, we are going to compile it so that we use it to expand to even more countries and even the programs we are going to be having. Thank you very much, guys, and I'm really impressed, and let us continue with this spirit.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Tanzania, your next webinar is coming up on the 14th. So you'll be leading, you're going to be with Cote d'Ivoire. We're going to try to see how we can arrange interpretation for that meeting. Thank you very much again, and thanks for joining us. If you haven't signed in.
But Eugene, they are not stopped from even participating in others. And we would actually encourage so that you learn from what others are learning. So if we are going to continue encouraging people, not the one or you are not the counterpart, it will be actually serve you well if you listen. So then you are going to get more and more.
Yeah, thank you very much. That said, I'm going to send out an email later this evening with a lineup of all of the webinars for the next 7 days so that you can put it on your calendar and join. I thank you very much and do have a good day. If you have not registered, hang around. I'm going to leave the meeting open for a few more minutes so that you can register before you leave the room. But if you have, you're welcome to leave the meeting now. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.